What's up, everyone? Here with Placido Santos, my uke, Dean, how do you say your last name?
Caraba.
Caraba, did I leave you hanging? My bad. That was on the Bernardo videos too, right? Anywho, Placido's going to show us something really cool. It's an X-guard counter that he hit at the East Coast Trials, and he's really good at integrating passing with the threat of leg lock, so I'll let Placido take over for you.
So yeah, something that I always like to try to do whenever I'm teaching a technique is to give people an overall big picture of philosophy that's driving said technique. So in this case, it's the idea of offensive and defensive cycles. So one thing to understand, like any combat martial art really, is that offensive maneuvers require the man to open up in order to attack, right? So in the sport of boxing, you can't punch without opening yourself to the possibility to get a counter punch. And in the sport of jiu-jitsu, likewise, you can't attack without opening yourself up to the possibility of getting counter-attacked. Okay? A lot of times in guard, this takes place in the form of limb extension, right? So when Uke is extending his limbs, okay, in order to make connection to me, he is simultaneously also creating openings for me to attack or expose. All right. One of the reasons why Uke may be interested in extending to reach me is, once again, because he wants to be offensive. Because if he's purely defensive, retract everything. If he's purely defensive, then it becomes such an easy thing for top man to incorporate all of his offense, right? So there's a juxtaposition between offense and defense that's constantly going on, that as a practitioner you have to be able to balance and juggle all at once. All right. Now, Ruben asked me to show a very specific dilemma that I like to play from when people get into X-guard on me. And by the way, Ruben did really good at East Coast and West Coast trials. He freaking killed it. This guy's improving really fast, and this is a great school to be at if you're in the Boston area, Massachusetts. Period. I actually live an hour away, and I travel an hour to train here because it's a freaking good school. All right, so I'm not making that up.
I paid him to say that.
He did. He paid me with an OnlyFans subscription to his website. Yeah. All right, so dilemma I like to play. Opponent's getting X-guard on me. So they're in an X-guard position. So like I said before, certainly in this case, Uke is the being offensive and dominant in this position. However, this doesn't come with risks. Okay. In this case, Uke opens his legs, his ankles up to exposure with my hands. All right. So in cases like this, because my opponent's already off balancing me, oftentimes I like to just be preemptive and place my hands on the mat preemptively. Okay. Because I know if he off balances me, and I place my hand on the mat in places where I don't want to place them, I already know I'm behind in the game. Okay. So first thing I'll do is I'll pick a spot where I want to place my hands, and I'll switch to my left hand post. So I'll post the hand nearest to the legs, and then I'll switch to the other post. Are my hands on the mat? Yes, they are. But they're on the mat on my terms, not on his terms. Okay, it's a big difference. I know a lot of times people say don't put your hands on the mat, but this would be an exception. Okay, so I take my right hand and I switch to my left, and now I use my right hand to seek up his ankle. Okay. When I seek up his ankle, it's not a hard thing for me to forward step, strip the ankle, and now back step out. Okay. Now, once this happens, okay, bottom man is in a dilemma. Okay. He can either stay extended, okay, and connect to my hip. Okay. He might want to do things like this because perhaps he wants to recover into leg locks or something of the sort. Okay. Or he can play a more conservative and defensive game and retract his knees inside, okay? And just bring his knees to his chest so that all this chest exposure is mitigated, all right? But with the two options also come two sets of problems, okay? First set of problems, when I'm here, S-guard situation, if my opponent decides to extend, okay, keep connection with my hip, guess what we have? Heel hook exposure, okay? So because his heel is exposed right on my hip, if I can manage to connect in ways where I can trap his knee in between my knees, okay, and catch a heel here, he's in a lot of danger here. Now, from here, it really depends on how your opponent reacts. Most of the times, if they just freeze in the position, it's not a wrong reaction to sit back and keep knees pinched to create a very high wedge. From here, when you pinch your knees, this is a wedge he has to overcome. In order for him to overcome this, he has to high leg all the way over. You can see it's very awkward. You see how awkward that movement was for him? So they really don't have that much time. And in the time they're trying to high leg, you're already going back on the heel. But if they do high leg, it's not a hard thing for us to go backside 50 and keep attacking from there. Okay? So that's the heel hook / leg lock dilemma. Second set of dilemmas is if he decides not to connect to my hip, but instead retract everything to his knees. Now from here I have things like J-pose camping. If you buy Gordon's instructionals, you can find out more about that. He talks a lot about that. We can do things like start to switch off grips and switch down to north-south passing, okay? And essentially, my opponent, because he's being so defensive, he allows me to open up offensively to pass his guard, okay? So once again, just to reiterate everything I was saying, we want to always juggle the juxtaposition between offensive and defensive cycles, okay? Understand that in order for him to be more offensive, he also has to open himself to attack. Same thing goes for top man, okay? And then the example I showed you guys was an example from X guard, where in X guard, I simply, to retain my own balance, I take my right hand, place it on the mat, switch to my left. From here, I control his bottom ankle. I step, 1, strip, back step, 2. Now he has to make a decision. If he stays connected, we can come back and start to catch the heel here. Say for example, I come back to catch the heel, he feels the threat, he retracts his knee so he doesn't get heel hooked. Now I can start to pass in situations like this, okay? And again, you can be creative. There's a lot of ways you can attack from there, and a lot of ways you can pass from there.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thanks. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel, not my OnlyFans.